Yes, guys, welcome from me. This is Championship Manager 0102, the D.T.L Season 5 conclusion. Apologies, this is long overdue, but I get restricted time to do my videos. But here we are, we're here now. Where to start? You know, well, first things first, right? It looks like we've seen the end of General Smuts. I did read that it looks like he's going to be hanging up his cap, I think the word he used. Or, you know what, General Smuts, it's been a pleasure. Who am I kidding, General Smuts? I'm just saying that to make you feel better. I don't give a shit. No, I'm joking. So, something I've pointed out before with regards the D.T.L, Mark has a waiting list, I believe, for people that want to participate. And I think it works like this. It's something like he has a waiting list. And at the end of the season, he'll see who's staying on for the next season. General Smuts has said he possibly won't, so someone who's top of the waiting list will be given the option to participate. It's something like that. So if it sounds like something that you want to have a look at, you want to go on the waiting list or what have you, then get your ass on the forums and give Mark a shout. You don't actually need to do it as a PM. You can do it on the subsection of the forums. There is a D.T.L interactive and there's a discussion. So, I think it was inevitable. I mean, I'm casting my mind back to the last one, but let's start right at the beginning then. Colchester, Trunky, what a season for Trunky. He's won the league, and I think all credit to him. I'm going to try and do this without any spoilers completely, but there you see, we knew he was on the brink, and I think a big congratulations to Trunky. Man City, AJ. Now, we'll have a look more about AJ and everybody else in a moment, but AJ, a phenomenal season for you. Second place, only 5 points behind Trunky. What can I say? Well done. That's all I'll say. Durham, Southampton, 76. And AMC, 74. Now, this goes back to what we said before. Does fourth place get Champions League after season 1? Now, my gut feeling, and I hate to say this to you, AMC, my gut feeling is going to be no. If it was going to the 3.968 update for the next season, then I would say yes. But it's not. It's going to the 3.965 update. So, I'm not 100% sure, and hopefully somebody will be able to clarify on that. Mark might be able to. My gut feeling is AMC won't. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles, really. Nevertheless, and I looked at this the way when this happened to me, AMC. When this happened to me, when I finished 4th and didn't get the Champions League, it was still a very successful season. Spectral in 5th for Chelsea. Now, to be honest with you, right, I'm not going to be nasty, right? I'm not going to be nasty. I'm going to try and keep it clean. Spectral surprised me because I always felt Spectral had one of the strongest setups. Well, that clearly changes from season to season whenever teams strengthen, like Trunky. But Spectral, surprisingly for me, finished 5th and out the Champions League. Arsenal, Marimo, good season for him. Now, Marimo was also suspected that he could leave D.T.L after this season. I'm sure I read he was giving it up. Then I read he's put his name down for the next season. Who knows? Wolverhampton Wanderers. We'll talk about Wolves in a moment. Liverpool 8th. Redders. Think he'll be a bit pissed off to finish so low down, particularly to finish missing out on 7th, which could prove vital on the goal difference. And it's a bit shit for him, really, because the goal difference is by a swing of 1. Who knows? Dweverstone, Leeds United, 9th place finish for him. Preston North End, Luke finishes in 10th. Ian, London, shall I say, in 13th. Now, it would be fair to say, him and Reese, Tranmere Rovers, diabolical seasons. I think that there's no other way to put it. Fucking-bolical. Absolutely outrageous. If Mark could put sackings, right? If Mark could implement his own sackings into the game, right? Firstly, he'd have fucking got rid of me long time ago. But from a merit perspective, and I have to say this, right? It would be London that goes. I think Reese has had a very successful UEFA Cup campaign, but Man United, it can't be accepted. Into the first division now then. Okay. Spoiler alert! Okay. Spoiler alert here. Let's start then with Evesham. Evesham, it was that last game, and I'm going to have a look at that in a minute. Mark Stoke, missing out on automatic is one thing, because he's been up there all season long. Missing out on the losing in the playoffs is just diabolical. Maybe I've been a bit hard on our chairman here. Maybe he doesn't cheat and he doesn't rig it. Or maybe this is just a little plot for next season for him to have the perfect sit. No, I'm only joking, Mark. You cheat. No, absolutely brutal that is. And Isham, I think you've got to give him credit where it's due, because it was all about, first of all, we're going to see, so he was knocked out to Charlton. He'll be fucking livid to lose to AI, more so that playoffs. But it was all based on this game, weren't it? It was all based on this game, if I remember rightly from the last update. And that is absolutely brutal. Missing a penalty as well. And finally, just the ghost over at Blackburn. We said about who would deserve the league, the wooden spoon. Well, just the ghost isn't far behind, because that was absolutely piss poor. But you know what? Onwards and upwards, mate. You'll have Mark to keep you company next season. So, let's now cast our mind back to a few things here, there and everywhere. Some things we would have already covered, I'm sure. Man City, AJ, very, very well done to AJ winning the League Cup. You've got to be very, very happy with that. The FA Cup went to AJ. That was a big month in May. It was. AJ done it. He beat Trunky. Denied Trunky the double. But that's a close old game. But he's claimed the cup double himself. I like to look at this guy because I think this guy, Bobby Petter, is an absolute fucking assist machine. I've always felt it in CM. And look at that. He doesn't let me down, does he? 22. What the fucking cat's just staring at me? Really evil. Bobby Petter, 22 assists. What a fucking player. And it's not as if you can really play him anywhere else. So, AJ, absolutely fucking phenomenal. Really is phenomenal. Let's just cast our mind back now then to the Charity Shield. I think it's always worth it. And that went to Redders. Redders beating AJ in the final. Something I forgot to go to for the benefit of a season summary. Before I carry on, when Mark did the update for June, it was absolutely brilliant. It was like a live stream, but sort of like a diary stream. Absolutely brilliant. And the work that went in on that to our chairman, it cannot go unnoticed. Absolutely brilliant. So, let's now go to the European competitions. Let's start with Reece. Well, what can you say? If I was in Reece's shoes, I'd be gutted. I'd be really gutted for Reece, because he deserves something. He deserved a penalty shootout. He deserved a coin flip. But then I guess if he lost on penalties, he'd rather have lost in normal time. A great achievement to have got to the final to play Skalk. What can I say? Now, I ain't going to lie to you here, Reece. I'm not going to lie to you at all. Because had Reece have won that, he'd have qualified for the UEFA Cup. And that could potentially have compromised... that would have potentially compromised me finishing 7th. So if we just look at the coefficients a minute, you'll see what I mean. So England... Right, now this is what I'm talking about. Season 1, it starts as 3-3-2. So that's what I mean. If Mark starts a brand new game, it starts with 3-3-2. So this could actually affect me, couldn't it? That thing that's going to affect AMC could affect me. So let's assume it's 3 for the Champions League. That would be the top 3 there. Hull, Chelsea, Arsenal. Now the FA Cup won't go... Right, okay. It should go to us, actually. I think the way I read that, it goes to the FA Cup and the League Cup. I'm not going to get it, am I? I'm not going to get it, am I? I'm not going to get it. That's how I see it. If it's going to be, I've got a feeling it's going to be the fresh save. 3.965 is going to be 0102, so it's going to be the same coefficients, which means it's going to be those top three that go into the Champions League, Hull go into the UEFA Cup, and ordinarily it would be the FA Cup winners and then the League Cup winners. But of course, as we've said, who did I say won? Right, sorry. Let me just remind myself now. Who did I say won the FA Cup? Right, so it would normally go to the runners-up of the FA Cup, but that's not going to happen. So the way I read it is the UEFA Cup slots are going to go to 4th, 5th and 6th. 4th for finishing 4th, 5th and 6th, because they're not going to go to those cup teams. Which means I am going to probably end up, and there's no guarantee I'm going to get it, is there? It's going to be between me. Mark, how did you do the Intertoto? Did you just apply for all of us? I would imagine that's what Mark done. So, I don't know how that's going to be determined. That's pissed me off, actually. But then I think that was always going to happen, weren't it? It was always going to happen. I weren't going to catch Spectral or Marimo. Right, okay. So, let's finally now then go and look at the Champions League. Ready? Okay, Champions League. What can you say? What a fucking... what a finish for Durham. And I think Durham will be really, really pleased. But I think the problem was... Not problem, but the issue was going to be getting through the semi-final for Durham. He had Spectral. Now, this was absolutely massive for Spectral because this is the interesting thing. Had Spectral had won the Champions League, despite where he finishes, even if he's out the top 5, 6, 7, he would have still qualified. But that didn't happen. That didn't happen. And the fact that Durham has done it, he finished 3rd, so it's not going to make no difference. So it's going to be an interesting one. For Spectral, I do feel for Spectral, but do you know what? He won loads of shit last season before, so he can fuck himself. Sorry, I couldn't hold myself. Manager of the Year. Let me talk about who I feel is Manager of the Year. Given everyone's exploits, I think Reece has done a great job with Tranmere, but I think his league form has just been atrocious, so I can't put him in that. I think if we're going to talk about Wooden Spoon, I think Mark had already said this on his diary piece. For me, it's definitely going to be London 35, aka Ian at Man United. He gets the Wooden Spoon. The Manager of the Year, in my opinion, goes to AJ. I feel AJ deserves it. I think AJ, he had a good run. I think he was a bit unlucky. And the fact that he lost in the Champions League quarters to the eventual winners will make him feel better. But look at his April and May sort of running. Absolutely outrageous. Only one AI team. So, let's go now then to the Mighty Wolves and have a look at May. This is what I'm saying. I was hopeful maybe I could get 6, but look at that. With a fucking end like that, I didn't deserve to. Let's be honest. Did not deserve to, but deserves something from that. Marimo can go and fuck himself. Prick. So that. And then against... I've just given him the Manager of the Year, right? But I think anyone that can beat the Mighty Wolves 4-0 deserves to be knighted. Well, we right from the off, we weren't going to do it, were we? It was never going to happen. So, pretty gutted, if I'm truly honest, because the more I look at it, right, and the more I think, if I've got 4 points... Well, if I'd beaten Marimo in that last game, in that penultimate game, I'd have been 6. So, I'm actually quite disgusted with myself. I don't know. It's hard to say how it's going to go. The Charity Shield, then, will consist between Trunky and AJ. So, they will kick off Season 6 in the Charity Shield. But it's going to be a while before Season 6 kicks off. For the simple reason, there's a lot to go through now. This is the real exciting part of the D.T.L. This is brilliant. So, once Mark has got confirmation who's in, who's out, I understand he's waiting on one more manager to confirm if he's going to be available for Season 6. Once he's done that and brought in a new manager, if General Smuts has gone, it will be the next stage, which will be Mark will develop, I don't know if he'll develop or use a computer or system or what, I don't know how he does it. CPU bids. Now what will happen is, back in the original early days of the D.T.L, CPU, the AI will make a bid for every single player in my squad. Every single player in every human manager squad. That is no longer the case. It is now only a selected amount of players, which makes a lot of sense. Makes an absolute lot of sense. So, we're waiting now then for the CPU bids. Now, what will happen is, Mark will say, let's say there's 10 players from every club, which is probably roughly the same sort of case. And there'll be an offer. I'm not sure how he does it exactly. There is a system, and everyone will get notification of a CPU. And this is basically, these players will get put back into the game. I don't know if they'll ever be recycled. They might be at a later date. But they'll go back into the game, and let's say my 10 players are Claudio Lopez. They've offered me 15 million. They've also offered me Marion Paars 2 million. I can accept all of the CPU bids. All the players go. That money goes into my bank for the next stage, which I'll tell you more about that in a moment. But the CPU, what you've got to think, right? Let's say I'm getting rid of Stephen Pearson, just hypothetically. I know who I'm getting rid of, by the way. I've done a little bit of research. So let's say the CPU have bid 4 million for Pearson. I've got to weigh up, right? Could I get more for Pearson on private deals with fellow human managers? Or, I've got to think about it. I mean, I could technically put a transfer list out there now to give players an idea of what's available. But it's very difficult to assess it like that. You really want to do the CPUs first and just get them out of the way. Because what Mark will do is he'll do the CPUs, he'll see who's taking what, and then he'll remove those players from the squad and do a provisional save, an unofficial, shall I say, save of our squads set up without those players that we're going to get rid of. The thing is, when he starts a new save on the 3.965, it will be unofficial. So remember, some players can load up different to others. So I might have Stephen Pearson load up as an absolute fucking machine. I might then think, right, I'm not selling him, I'm keeping him. Then when he sends the official save, he might load up like dog shit, So you've got to be very, very careful and do a little bit of analysing, which I've not really done the last 5 years. Not as much as I've done so far. I'm actually looking into it as a different perspective. Who knows? The difference between 3.960, the vanilla, and what we're going to, well, I begged that big, very question. And I think it was, who was it? I think it was AMC that answered it for me, which was quite informative. From what I can gather, because I actually installed it, it's no different on the game date. It still starts at 01, finishes in 02. In fact, do you know what? I'll tell you what we'll do very, very quickly, right? Just for the benefit. Okay, let's just start a new game. This is a 3.965, as you can see right in the corner there. So let's just start a game. So this is a 3.965. So this, in theory, would be... this is how Mark does it. He does it all in the editor, or whatever program it is he uses. It's not the editor. And now there isn't too much different. In fact, I think. Yeah, so you see that we start in the 14th of the 7th, 01. Now the biggest thing I'm going to look at right now, and I think this is going to answer that question that we just said, is going to be the. I've just had a complete fucking mind blank. There it is. Yeah, it's still 3-3-2. Do you know what though, right? I just thought something. Since when does the England offer 2 places in the Intertoto? I thought it was only ever 1. I thought that before, actually. But anyway, so that's that. So, this is the 3.968. Now, the 965. Now, the example AMC gave me was Robbie Fowler. Yeah, so basically, it was like a mini update, tweaking a few things that needed to do within the game. Back then, you didn't have a second update. this is just like a tweak, an official tweak, with a little bit of an update. So Robbie Fowler is at Leeds. So there was a couple of transfers. So it doesn't really affect any players that I've got in my Wolves setup, which is really important. And then there's a few players whose whose PA is going to alter maybe, or CA may alter here and there. So there's not a massive difference. And I think the other thing is, it's worth noting. Let me just see if we can get to it. These are the unlocked formations for the new season. I believe I got that right. This is the latest one, sweeper. I've got this feeling no one's going to be using it, but who knows? I mean, I guess you could do it, and you could stick an arrow on him, maybe, to try and, I don't know, glamour it up a little bit. So what formation are people going to use? 3-5-2. These are the only formations that we can use, and it can only be team instructions and arrows, no player instructions. 4-2-4, I don't like 4-2-4. I've grown to like 5-3-2 attacking. Genuinely have. That was my own arrows. Let me just put 5-3-2. Let me see what it looks like normally. 5-3-2 attacking. Okay. Fucking hell! I lose my fucking head if I got to touch. Yeah. Okay. So so the next part of D.T.L. after the CPU is what Mark will do is he will then start putting the auctions up. Now, I've got to remember how many auctions he puts up. I think it's about 10 auctions, 10 days of auctions, or 10 auctions. Each auction consisting of 20 players. And we then, this is for the benefit of anyone that is looking to go onto the list, looking to start. He'll put the auction up and he'll say, right, PM me your bids, and you will bid of your choice for 5 players on that auction. You will send them a PM with a bid for only 5 players. And then at the end of the deadline, Mark will then say who's got who's bid the highest. On some occasions, he'll go to two managers and say, you two guys need to rebid, clearly because they've bid the same amount. Maybe even 3, who knows. Now, you can have a day where an auction where you get all 5 players. On the back of that, you can have one where you don't get any. You've got to keep an eye on your squad size, though. That is massive. Mine, I think, is 46, 47. But this is where you can use your CPU bids, you see, to get rid of some of your dead wood. And, of course, if a player doesn't sell on the auction one, he'll do the next auction with 20 players, plus any players that didn't sell. You've got to look for that, because if you've not got much money, you can pick up a player for 100 grand. Increments of 100 grand, so none of this fucking 133,000, 140,000, blah, blah, blah. Increments of 100,000. I believe that's the case. And, it depends really. I think he will reuse players that have gone into the pot. I'm sure he does. I'm sure I read that he don't, and then I thought he does. I could be wrong on that, though. So it's a long-winded thing, because he'll put an auction up and he'll probably put the deadline for a day or 2. Then that's just one auction. Then he'll do another auction, and so on and so on and so on. It is really, really good fun, and don't underestimate just how much work Mark puts in on this, because it's fucking loads. After the auctions will conclude, and then we will have player-to-player deals. So he'll give a window of time, a couple of weeks maybe, for us all to discuss with one another, update our transfer lists, and make deals. And as long as we both put on the confirmation of a deal, so as long as I put that I'm buying Vieira from Trunky for 10 million, and Trunky's selling Vieira to me for 10 million, job done. And I like that. I think that's really, really important. And that reminds me of play-by-mail games back in the early 90s, where to do a deal with someone, both managers had to put it. And if one doesn't, then deal's off. Simple as that. And I like that. It means that you've got no excuses, really. So the player-to-player transfers, that's when you can... an opportunity. If there's a new manager come in, they might want to pick up some freebies. I think a new manager can either take over an existing club or start from scratch with a scratch bank balance. I think that's how it works. And of course, if I'm saying, right, I've got all these players available on a free, if you want them, just to get rid of them, or 100 grand, even 100 grand, 200 grand, you know, who knows. So, that's that. And then after that, Mark will then send an unofficial save again with all the players moved around, and he'll make it unofficial because he'll look for feedback that we've not got anything, that he's not got anything wrong. And he's only human. He will make the odd error, even though I expect him not to, because he's like the Messiah. He'll then create the save, an official save, which will be the official save with all the players moved in. So, you know, that's that. So, that is a D.T.L, the end of Season 5. And I think a lot of people will join me in saying what a great job Mark does of this. I think so much work. I mean, particularly now at the end of the season, you know, I'm saying I love this part of the season. It's really, it's entertaining. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on. And all I do is I send 5 bids and then I get angry at not getting players and cheer at getting players. That's all I do. Mark, on the other hand, is doing a lot more. And I think, you know, we take our hats off to him. We really do on just how much work he does. I'm not saying that equal amount of work isn't done from Spectral, who also does an interactive game, the CML, is it? Spectral? Equally, a lot of work goes in, but fuck you, Spectral, and your CML. I don't give a shit about that. We're talking D.T.L. But so much work is involved in D.T.L. It's really a joy to be part of. It really is, considering I never used to do it. But it's all good fun. There's a lot of good banter. The banter, particularly with Trunky, well, it's banter from him to me. What I say to Trunky, I actually mean. You know, I hope he gets knocked over by a vehicle. I really do. Right, that's it from me, guys. Till next time, take it easy.